Hello and welcome back everybody to the Food Build Factory, and today we're back with another Purveyor-Please, and this time around Murma has a mystery pick event, meaning that we can get 3-star legendary armor, power armor or weapons for 60 scrip. I have saved 1000 scrip on this character here, and now we're going to burn through it. Honestly, this is a little bit of a treat to myself because I just went through recording a 45-minute video with the character you see on screen, and once I was finished and wanted to start editing it a little bit, I turned off my mic. So yeah, I'm a bit frustrated at this point, so I have to treat myself, and let's hope Murma is glad. Murma is nice to us. Let's jump right into it. Here it is, Murma's mystery pick. By the way, I say Murma, I'm not sure what she's actually called. And yeah, let's hope for good 3-star weapons. Alright, we're starting off with a not so banger, to be honest, a Zealots faster fire rate, reduced weight laser pistol. Heavily modifiable weapon, which means reduced weight. While it sounds good and looks great at the moment, as you can see there, we have a weight of 0.3. Looks great, but yeah, no matter what you go for with this weapon, you will add a lot of mods which will weigh their full weight, so weight reduction doesn't do too much on this weapon. It's never bad, but not the greatest either, so yeah, kind of a missed opportunity here. Faster fire rate, never a bad pick, I guess. It's okay, can definitely help. Sadly, laser pistols aren't too great to begin with, so the only way I found them to be somewhat viable in my experience is to heavily go for VATS crits. For once, I think they actually perform better as semi-automatic weapons than fully automatic ones, but still faster fire rate, not a bad effect here. That's definitely the best thing here, but yeah, the Zealots effect lost again. Either you go against scorched enemies like, yeah, just scorched, which are flimsy and therefore, yeah, a buff to them isn't really necessary, or you go against scorched beasts. On that situation, yeah, going against them with a laser weapon should probably be a tough situation. Overall, not a great weapon. So, yeah, let's go on. A Mutants heavy metal leg. I mean, heavy metal legs are cool. I kind of like them. In general, heavy metal armor, really cool static. Really like it. Mutants, not the worst effect. Sadly, 10 damage resistance and energy resistance hardly make a big difference here. Yeah, it's not the worst effect in the world, but the rest of the effects here is kind of lost. I mean, poison resistance can be interesting. However, if I want to have a character that has poison resistance, I would probably just go for Funky Dots. Um, the opportunity cost is the problem here. Poison resistance is nice, but you could have just have powered, for example, giving you extra AP refresh. So yeah. And lastly, yeah, receive less limb damage. There's two situations. Either I care for limb damage, meaning I don't want to use Stimpaks in order to heal my crippled limbs. If that's the case, I use 3 perk points to use Adamantium Skeleton, in which case this legendary effect would be lost. Or on other situations, I just use a Stimpak. So yeah, sadly not the greatest piece in the world here, and kind of heavy for not really giving us a lot of script. So yeah, yet another bad pick. Alright, it's getting worse yet. We do have a suppressor shish kebab with the inertial effect, and it breaks slower. Now, breaking slower can be kind of good on melee weapons in my opinion. Some of the melee weapons tend to break relatively fast, so that's definitely not a bad effect, and especially on melee weapons, there's not a lot of great 3rd-star effects. Obviously strength is always nice for a little bit of a damage boost, but it's hardly noticeable in most situations. If I want to go for a VATS build, less VATS cost would obviously be nice, or faster VATS crits could be interesting. However, as I pointed out in previous builds, even now with legendary effects that are specifically for VETS usage. VETS melee still isn't my favorite. It's kind of interesting with unarmed weapons, can work really well, but on melee weapons, yeah, I still prefer not using them in VETS. And yeah, inertial. So what I wanted to say with this is, yeah, break slower is not a bad effect here, but that's basically it. Suppressors is garbage. I really don't like it. The thing is, it's not necessary. Like reducing, you can do a lot to be tanky in this game, and really, when it comes to weapons, your best approach is just make them more powerful so you can kill enemies faster, rather than dragging a fight out and be a bit more tanky. That's basically the whole premise here. Yeah, I would definitely 100% prefer something that boosts my damage, quite simply. And inertial, I mean it's okay, it doesn't hurt, but really when it comes to melee weapons you want swing speed or power attack damage. They are just vastly superior to all the other effects here. Inertial just, yeah, shish kebab isn't a powerful weapon to begin with, so you will probably need like 3, 4, maybe 5 hits to kill an enemy. And if you're not using that, inertial won't be too useful unless you're talking maybe about power attacks, but yeah, it's just the opportunity cost again. Yeah, you want to have swing speed or power attack damage, I guess. Alright, here, a Berserker's Fat Man with Vet's hit chance and agility. This could actually be interesting, fun to fool around with. I'm thinking about making a Berserker's explosive character, so this is kind of interesting. Um, I mean, on paper it's a terrible weapon. You know, like, you can't stealth with explosive weapons, not reliably at least. So Berserkers already is kind of a bad pick, because yeah, usually when you use a Berserkers build, you can only get away with it by using stealth. But yeah, that's hit chance, not a bad effect here, I guess, because yeah, if I want to use a Fat Man, I'm likely to use it in VATS. It's a bit of a personal preference, to be honest. Some people like to use them outside of VATS. I think they are just way more efficient when used in VATS. And yeah, extra agility. If you want to use this thing in VATS, agility can be interesting just to give you a little bit more action points, but it will hardly matter. We talk about 5 or 10 action points here, so that won't make a great difference. Berserker's kind of interesting, yeah, sure. I mean, obviously, if you go for explosive weapons, two-shot is by far the best. It just straight up doubles your damage output. But Berserkers, yeah, it's 50% extra damage, which could be interesting. Overall, it's not the greatest weapon in the world, but I kind of like it, so let's put it on the maybe fool around with list, okay? Funnily enough, it's the best one we got so far, in my opinion. Then we get an armor piece again, regenerating marine armor, right arm with less explosion damage and ammo weight reduction. So ammo weight reduction can be interesting here. However, unless you're going for a full set of ammo weight reduction, it will probably be useless, because 20% less ammo weight doesn't cut it. You still probably need bandolier or, sorry, batteries included. And overall, these just don't need too much perk points to utilize, so especially when it comes to bandolier, it's just 2 perk points. Most of the times, yeah, ammo weight reduction is just not necessary. It can be interesting if you combine a full set, but that's basically it. Now, receive less damage while from explosions, that's interesting, because that's one of the few situations where I could see myself be interested in the combination here, like less explosion damage and ammo weight reduction. If you have a full set with those 2 effects, they could actually free up some points in strength, so you can actually make a very effective build when it comes to stuff like maybe the Hellfire missile launcher. But yeah, you still have the problem of a bad first effect, which is regenerating. It's just a terrible effect. I once really went through, before legendary crafting and custom worlds and everything, through the process of gathering a full set of regenerating armor, and it was devastatingly disappointing. The amount of regeneration you get outside of combat, even with a full set, is terrible. It takes for ages, and you're just much better off just using the healing factor mutation. It's no joke, 10 times faster than a full set of regenerating armor. So, yet again, not the greatest thing in the world. I mean, marine armor in and of itself is okay, but yeah, not a great piece. It gets worse though. We do have a Zealot's Trapper arm. Trapper armor, interesting looks, but otherwise pretty bad, to be honest. Fire resistance, similar to poison resistance, it can be interesting, but there are legendary perks that are way more effective if you want to have those. In addition to that, fire resistance, fire damage to you as a player is even rarer than poison damage, so there's really the only instance I can think of now that I ever got problems with fire is during the Colossal Problem event. And yeah, breathing underwater, completely useless. I don't know why this effect is in this game here, just because there's only 1 or 2 ponds deep enough to actually dive, to be honest. I mean, probably there's like 20 or so, but you get the point. And you never need it. There's only one instance in the whole game where you actually need to dive a little bit, and spoiler alert, you get help there. So yeah, really unnecessary perk here. Even more, you do have a perk that just needs 1 perk point, which is Aqua Boy or Aqua Girl, and that does the same. And lastly, we do have the Zealots effect, one of the least valuable of the situational effects in my opinion, of the Slayer effects. They can be interesting. I often go for troubleshooters and mutant slayers just because those are enemies you often encounter and that can be quite dangerous. You relatively often encounter scorched enemies as well. The thing here is that they're not too much of a threat. Scorched in and of themselves, they can do a lot of damage, but they're very squishy, so you can easily deal with them. And Scorched Beast, basically, yeah, they don't do a lot of damage. I mean, their sonic attack is covered by reducing your explosion damage, so fireproof makes their sound waves nullified, and yeah, their swings are very rare and not too powerful as well. So overall, yeah, this is a really bad armor piece in my opinion. Hunter's Bow with the inertial effect and agility. I mean, on this weapon, the inertial effect could be relatively interesting just because the weapon uses relatively little AP to shoot. So it could possibly be that maybe if you get a combination of the inertial effect and less VATS cost, you could make it so that the bow uses basically no VATS at all when you're one-shotting an enemy, which is quite possible with a lot of them. But yeah, other than that, not a great weapon here. Hunters, I mean, it's kind of it's rather fitting on a bow, which you could assume you use for hunting or so. It's a very lightweight weapon, so you can easily carry it around if you want to have it for role-playing reasons, you know, like just taking down some deer or so. It could be quite interesting, but other than that, I don't see this weapon being too useful, to be honest. There's just way better effects for the bow, in my opinion. We stick with the Hunter's effect, which I still don't really like, and we put it on a ski sword with reflecting melee damage while blocking and less damage while blocking. So if blocking would be useful, this could be an interesting weapon. However, blocking is quite terrible. Maybe I will make a build centered around blocking, but it's unlikely, to be honest. And yeah, if I would do that, I probably would still go for swing speed or something. But I could see myself using the combination of reflecting melee damage while blocking and taking less damage while blocking. The problem here is reflecting melee damage while blocking sounds relatively good, until you notice that it's the damage that the enemy hitting you deals that's going to be cut in half and then reflected, not your own. So that makes it even worse than it initially appears. And lastly, yet again, we do have the hunter's effect. I mean, if you take this as a dedicated weapon to go against animals, at least the only thing it has going for it is animals you can pretty much always block. There's only one animal. No, it's not even an animal. I was thinking about bloatflies that have ranged attacks, but yeah, most animals don't have ranged attacks, so they will go for melee, and therefore you can block them. But yeah, it's a terrible weapon. Let's face it. Nah, I mean, it's better than what we had so far. It's an auto-steam radar power torso. Hunger and thirst grow slower, and the Cavalier's effect, so 75% chance to reduce damage by 15% while sprinting. Auto-stim, definitely a good effect. I often like to have at least one piece. I mean, at least one piece. Mostly I want to have one piece on my full health characters, just as a little bit of a fail-safe, so that's never a bad decision. On power armor, this could spare you a modification. There's a torso mod doing the same thing. So yeah, it could be interesting. The Cavalier's effect really only gets interesting once you are in having a full set, in my opinion. Even then, it's not too crazy anymore, just because it's chance-based. But yeah, having a full set of Cavalier's armor and one auto-stim piece could theoretically make you very tanky. I could see this being interesting for a melee build in power armor. To be honest, in power armor you can get away with a lot. Radar power armor obviously is the worst, but it still is power armor, so it's kind of interesting. Also looks kind of cool in my opinion. I like it, especially the torso piece. The rest is kind of garbage, especially the arms. But yeah, the torso piece is kind of cool, I guess. Hunger and thirst growing slower, unless you have a overeaters build. I don't see this being too useful, to be honest. So yeah, it's an okay piece, but the best thing about it is probably how much scrip I get for it, to be honest. Same with this one here, regenerating ultraside torso. I already talked about how bad I myself find regenerating to be. Poison resistance we also were talking about a lot, so yeah. Also not too interesting, and Stimpaks right away and Red X being more effective. This is kind of an interesting effect, I kind of like it. You probably won't notice it most of the times. I'm kind of interested, kind of curious to see what a full set can do, to be honest. But yeah, that's basically it. Yeah, the last effect is the most interesting one here, and yet again it's one that probably only really shines once you have a full set, so yeah, not a good pick again. Um, hmm. Berserker's Plasma Cutter with 50% damage reflected while blocking and taking less damage while blocking. So I was earlier saying that maybe I will make a character based around blocking, and now that I see it, this could be interesting here. Really heavily focusing on using the Retribution perk, using a full set of armor that has the less damage while blocking effect on it. This could be a very challenging, fun build, making a Berserker's character that only has broken armor with that effect, so that you really have to think about how you approach situations, running in, blocking, and then using times when enemies like are staggered or something to maybe take your hit. Plasma Cutter in and of itself is a good weapon. Berserkers could be a significant damage increase. It really depends on one thing though, which I'm not quite certain. I think I read about it a while back, but yeah, less damage while blocking. I'm not quite sure if it just means during the time you are blocking you get less damage, or if it's really just working on melee enemies. If it's just working against melee attacks, that idea won't fly. If it really is a tank buff, basically, for the whole duration while you are blocking, it could be interesting. If any of you know the specifics about the blocking effect, let me know it. But yeah, this under very specific circumstances, this could be an interesting weapon. Probably not though. Alright, really we have terrible luck today. A cloaking marine armor chest piece with extra endurance and better sneak. I mean, better sneak is nice if you have one piece. I'm pretty sure more than one is overkill. It doesn't stack as far as I know. So that's definitely a nice effect. Extra endurance is okay, however, if you want to use a stealth build, you probably don't need a lot of endurance. So this would probably be more interesting for something like a Vanguard's piece or so. And yeah, cloaking is just outright terrible. So the moment it is active, you are already detected, and the cloaking field you get from it won't be enough to put you back into caution unless you are so stealthy that you can just crouch down and be in caution again anyways. So yeah, terrible piece again. Yeah. Alrighty here. A regenerating robot arm. So it's a light piece, which also isn't, to begin with, isn't great. Regenerating is bad, as I said. Less explosion damage, yeah, probably unnecessary in most situations. And yeah, 5% chance to deal 100 frost damage to melee attackers. I actually bothered to craft a full set of armor that has these 5% chance to reflect damage to melee attackers kinda effects, and it was still not great. So yeah, I kinda don't like these. They could add a little bit of flavor to a build, but there's always going to be better options out there. So yeah, yet again a terrible piece. A Zealot's Gauss pistol with better VATS crits and breaking slower. So the weapon has a tendency to break relatively fast if I remember correctly, so the last effect is kinda interesting here. Where I could see this thing being useful is if you are on a gunslinger. Obviously, scorch beasts are kind of a threat, unless you have a automatic gunslinger or something like that, which is low health, and you can deal with them rather easily. But usually, yeah, scorch beasts can be quite a big problem for gunslingers. Having a dedicated Zealot's weapon on a gunslinger probably isn't a bad decision. Usually you would go for VATS, I guess, so VATS crits definitely a nice thing as well. However, the thing is, ghost weapons aren't the best for dealing with Scorch Beasts, just because, yeah, recently Tiro made a good video about how hitboxes and explosion damage works when it comes to these kind of enemies. And yeah, as long as there are basically in the sky, airborne, sorry, you won't really see an effect of the explosive part of the damage of the Zealot's Gauss pistol, so that's a bit of a bummer. I still think it would be pretty good against a Scorch Beast though, so therefore yeah, maybe as a sidearm, but yeah, that's it. This here is interesting. I actually wanted to use the Gamma Gun with an instigating effect for once, and having VATS hit chance, definitely nice. I like to use this weapon in VATS. And reduced weight, kind of a loss here, but there could be way better stuff. But instigating VATS hit chance is a nice combination for the Gamma Gun. Unfortunately, as you see, I don't have any damage perks for guns at the moment, for handguns, pistols. The only thing I do have is Bloody Mess, so this is not exactly base damage what you see here, so it's probably more along the lines of 55 damage or so. That's what you will actually get from the instigating effect. So it's kinda, yeah, we'll see, but this is definitely an interesting weapon I may wanna take a closer look at. Could be great, could be terrible too, so yeah. And last one for today, an Assassin's T45 right arm, agility and reflect frost damage. I was talking about the 5% chance to deal so and so damage to enemies effect. I don't really like it. It's not the worst one, but definitely not great. Extra agility can be interesting, however, on a power armor piece, probably lost. You will be unlikely to use VATS on power armor, and also you will be unlikely to use stealth. And if you do so, extra agility could be nice, but yeah, the kind of builds that use extra agility probably aren't those that you have in power armor, and assassins just isn't a good effect. So yeah, overall I'm kind of disappointed, not gonna lie here, guys. This was quite a terrible visit. I'm kind of tempted. Let's just see. Obviously we're overweight. Let's just script two things here. Okay, this should be enough so we can get two more picks from Murma. And let's see. Maybe we'll get something good here. Life-saving, fire resistance, junk weight reduction, the robot chest piece. It's a heavy one, which is cool. It looks very good and also has decent stats. So kind of interesting here. Junk item reduction. That's actually one I find kind of useful. For the simple reason that oftentimes the other reductions I do have on armor pieces, I actually tackle those problems with perks. Talk about aid reduction or stuff like that, or ammo weight reduction. You really need a full set in order to not rely on the perks, and then it's kind of useful, but other than that, a single piece will probably not make a big difference. Junk weight reduction, however, I basically never use the perk for, and therefore, yeah, having a bit less junk weight is overall just useful. You're always going to find yourself looting a little bit, so from all the from all the weight reduction perks, in a way, junk weight reduction I think is one of the most useful ones. Fire resistance, as I said, there's just too little situations where it can be useful, and if so, you have other ways of dealing with it. Since this is a chest piece, one thing you could do basically is just use asbestos lining, which would further improve your fire resistance, and at that point it could be kind of cool. And life saving, I don't really like it. However, if I just go for any full health character, one life saving piece could be interesting. I just never want to rely on it, just because the specific circumstances you need in order to get into the situations where life saving could save your life, meaning you get down but not killed, are just very rare in my opinion. If I die, usually I just die straight up. It's very rare in my opinion that I just go down on the ground and would actually have the chance to be revived. So yeah, not the worst thing by far today, but definitely not a great thing either. And lastly, we do have a auto-stim ultraside left leg with AP refresh and reduced damage while blocking. This is good for the simple fact that it has AP refresh, so the powered modification. Always a great pick. You can never go wrong with it, unless you really need a full set of extra strength or something like that. But yeah, powered, definitely great. Mentioned earlier how auto-stim is interesting. I like it. And yeah, the ultraside armor is definitely a good pick. Good chance you have a set of it, and yeah, that could be kind of interesting. Reduces damage while blocking, talked about it a little bit earlier. Maybe there's a very specific circumstance where a full set of it could be interesting, but yeah, we'll see. Or not. If you don't see if you don't see me making a blocking build, then you can assume that it doesn't work like I intended. But anyways, this is a good piece, I would say, a solid piece. And yeah, with that, we kind of finished the video here, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed it more than I, because I was actually really disappointed. Oopsie. No, I didn't really, I wanted to reload. Anyways, yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, guys, and see you next time. Bye.